Hello everyone, welcome to our Angular from Scratch series. And in the last video, we have covered HTTP and API calls. Now in this video, we'll be covering the most important root of the Angular project, that is module and routing. So what are modules? So modules are a container inside which we define our components, services, our pipes, those we are using in our code. Okay, so every Angular app has at least one module, and module help you organize your code logically and functionally. Okay, if you are working in Angular 17 or on above version, you might end up not seeing in your apps. But before Angular 17, the Angular modules were playing a major role in the Angular application. I will explain you about the differences between when you are using the Angular modules and now after Angular 17, now how we are handling without the Angular module. So this is the general folder structure of our Angular application. So as you can see in this, we have app.routing.module.ts as well as we have app.module.ts. So this is used before Angular 17, where we were having these two major modules. The app module, where we define all of our dependencies and our component directives, our services inside this app module, and then app routing.module, where we define all our routes, that on which route we want to navigate to which page and which component should load. But after or from Angular 17, these two files are not anymore in our folder structure, as we are now creating the standalone components in our application. Standalone means a single component will contain all its dependencies, everything inside it, so that it can be reused anywhere throughout the application, or it can also be used outside the application. Now, what is root module? So root module is the main module that bootstrap the application, and it usually named as app module. If you have ever created the Angular application before Angular 17, you must have seen this app.module.ts file, which is the root module. Now, in after or from Angular 17, we see bootstrap application kind of method, which is used in the standalone application, which is help us to create the application to run in standalone mode. Now, what is feature modules? So, like app module is our root module, but now we want to build several features inside it, or we can say several small separate application inside it. Like I want to define the the user module inside it, where I'll be having only the user feature, and then we have admin, and then we have guest, and then we have other features as well inside it. Okay, so we can create those by using the feature module. And how we achieve that? We achieve that by creating the separate feature module and then creating a separate component for that module and defining all those functionality inside that particular module only. And that module we will import inside our root module, that is app module. Okay, and that will bootstrap the complete application. Then we have the shared module. Shared module, as the name suggests, it is created in such a way so that it can be shared among different features. Okay, so if I have some pipe, I have some component that I know it can be used by multiple features inside my application. So I'll be creating a shared module, and inside this shared module, I'll be defining all those common components that can be used by other features as well. So that is the purpose of shared module, to share the functionality between different features in my Angular application. Then we have lazy loading modules. So lazy loading modules is when we run our application, okay, and we have defined several components inside our root module or maybe inside our feature modules, our shared module. So when we load our application, by default, all those components will be loaded for us. All those modules, feature module will be loaded for us by default. So what is the disadvantage of these things? Maybe, for example, I'm an admin and I'm logging inside an admin module. I want to work inside the admin features. Okay. I'm logged in as an admin and I do not have access to user feature. So what is the purpose of loading the user functionality on when I'm loading the app? Okay. So it will be a waste of resources. Okay. And it will also slow down your application. So then comes the lazy loading module. So we load these modules only when someone access those route. Okay, I'll explain you with the examples in some time. In this example, you can see I'm just using the users path. Okay, and I'm just lazy loading it with the load children method, and I'm passing the user module to it. So I'm telling the routes that if this user's route is encountered, then only load my user module. Otherwise, do not load it in the browser memory. Okay, now let's move to the VS Code and I'll show you both the application. One is without module and other one is with module. Okay, so I'm inside my first app. As you can see, this is the application without the Angular module. So this is the standalone application. Okay, and if you see, if you notice, when I've created my component like first component, for example. So everywhere I have defined standalone as true. And you can see inside this, I am defining all the import statement as well. Okay, so what it means is I'm creating all those components inside my this application as standalone. That these can be used anywhere inside my complete application, or even it can be used outside the application if you're working in some libs environment where you have requirement to export your libs to other application. So in this way, uh, it can be used as a standalone component. It does not require any module. It does not have any dependencies. So this functionality came from Java. Sorry, this. Oh, sorry. Why it's written as Java 17? This should be Angular 17. Let me correct it. I want to notice this thing. Yeah. Okay. So this feature came from Angular 17. It was introduced in Angular 14 or 15, but it was properly implemented in the Angular 17. Okay, so in this application, all the component that I've created as standalone only. Okay, this does not require any module. But now I'll show you the application with modules. Okay, now as you can see in this, I have one app component. Okay, and then I have this uh, root module, that is app module, and inside this I'm defining all importing all my feature modules as well. So for example, I'm importing my admin feature module as well. So where I've created my feature admin, this is the admin feature. And inside this, I have all those files, HTML, CSS, TL, but I have module as well. And inside this module, I'll be importing anything related to my admin only. Okay, my admin feature only. And then I'm importing this admin module inside the root module, that is app module, this class, this class app module. Okay, now so this is the parent and those are the child, and the childs are imported inside the parent, and then parent is bootstrapping the complete application. Similarly, we have something called app routing module as well. Okay, so in app routing module, we majorly define the routing specific things only. So you can see I've defined here all the routes of my application where I'm redirecting to the empty path. Uh, if the empty path, I'm by default redirecting to the admin. Okay, and it is matching the full path. This is the default route. If nothing matches, it will automatically redirect my app to the admin app. Sorry, admin feature. And if the path has the admin, so then it is going to invoke the admin component. And now the third one, It is the most important thing. That is the lazy routing in Angular using module. Okay, so this is how we achieve the lazy loading. So what we are doing is, if you'll notice the app module, I have defined the child admin module inside my root module, app module, but I have not defined my user. Why? Because I do not want my user to be loaded when I'm loading or launching my application. I want my user to be loaded in the browser memory only when the route user is accessed. So that's why I'm not defining it inside modules so that it will not be loaded. I'm defining it inside the routing module for the route. So when user route will be accessed, then only I'm importing it. Okay, so that is lazy loading, and I will show you how it works. Okay, so let me start. Let me see if other application is running. Let me close it. And let me run this application here. Okay. Okay, this is running. Okay, let me run it. Okay. So now, as you can see here, my app is loaded, and when my app is launched, so by default it launched it like this. Okay, localhost 4200. As you can see here, it will be launched like localhost 4200. But what it checked is, by default the path, the route path was empty. Okay, we didn't define anything yet. It is empty. Okay, so what it does is it redirected to admin. This is the default route. If nothing matched, route it to admin. That's why what is doing is it is redirecting to the admin /admin, and the admin page. This is the eagle loaded admin page is loaded. Okay, and in the console also admin component loaded is printed. But you can see user is not yet loaded. There is no console statement. You see inside the user component, I will return the console statement for on in it. Similarly, I have written the console statement for admin component loaded on in it. So I can see the admin component loaded, but I cannot see user component loaded. So that is how the lazy loading works. The user is not yet loaded in the browser number. It will only be loaded when my user route will be accessed. So now I'm accessing the user route. I've cleared the console. Let me access the user route. /user is access, user page. This is the lazy loaded user component. Let me see the console. Yeah, user component is loaded. Okay, now you have understood how the routing works in the with the modules. Now, in the my first app, which is a standalone component kind of application. So how we define the route inside this? How the routing works here? We have the files called app.config and app.route.tf. So instead of modules, we have a single file here called app.config where we define everything which we used to define in the module. So the HTTP client was also imported here. So similarly, we provide the router here. Okay, so the provide router comes from the Angular router, and we define the route there. And routes we are importing from a file called app.routes. And in app.routes, similarly, that we define in the modules application, we are defining similarly our routes here. For the first path, I'm defining the first component, and for the second path, I'm defining the second component. Okay, and for the any path, so for /first, okay, so like for /first, I'm importing this. For /second, I'm importing this. But if there is anything and after / like anything, so it will redirect to first by default. Okay. So now that is how we define the routing thing. Now, how we use RouterLink. So if we go to app.component.html, you will see I've created these links that similarly I've created in the modules app. Okay, what I'm using is here is the RouterLink. Okay, so when I define my navigation menu, that this is the home page, this is the admin, this is the user, and this is the contact us. Okay, so we define some navigation in my navigation menu. So similarly, I'm defining my first component, second component, So on the click of first, I'll be loading in the first component, and when I will be clicking on this second component, I want to load this second component in my Angular application page. Okay, as my Angular application is the single page application, so my app will not reload, but what it will do it will just render that second component automatically on my page without reloading my page. And how it does that? It does that using this router outlet. Okay, so whatever router link we defined and what component will be figured out by the Angular, and it want to paste that Angular component, that HTML, so it will be pasted on the top of router outlet. Okay. So now, as you can see in my browser, I have this main app component. Okay, and this is my navigation menu. Okay, and this is my first component loaded by default. This is loading on the top of router outlet. Okay, on the top of router outlet, this thing is getting loaded. When I click on second, you can see the route changed and it loaded my second component. This is also happening on top of router outlet. My app is not reloading. It's just pasting my complete second component here. Okay, so this is how we use the router link. Use of route parameters. Now, how we use the route parameter. Okay, so when we want to route to any new page, so in that case, we want to pass some data as well. There will be some requirement that I want to pass some data to my new route that I can access there, and then I can perform some operation with it. So how we use route params? So whenever we defined our route, we can define one route for our params as well. If we want to pass some param, for example, the second component, I want to pass an ID as well. So this is how I can define my route. And now from my browser, when I hit second, I can pass an ID to it, like 1, 2, 3. My second component is loaded and I can access it inside my component. So if I go to my second component, okay, inside my nginit constructor, any method or after view init, wherever you feel like you will get the value, what you need to do, you need to use this route, that is activity route, my active route. And from my activity route, I want to take the snapshot of params map. And then from params map, I'll be getting a ID out of it, and that I can use. So similarly, I printed it inside the console. So once my second component is loaded, it must have printed the ID, that is 1, 2, 3. That is the one way of accessing the route parameter. Now, the other way of using the route parameter is passing it via the component. Okay, now we don't always change the route using the browser. Okay, so what happens if I want to pass it via the code? So what we do is, so inside our component, for example, this is my button. Okay, and on the click of this button, I want to route to second component. Okay, I'm routing to my second component on the click of a button. Now, this is the one way of routing to the second component, router using the router link. And this is the another way. Now on the click, what I'm doing is I'm using this dot router. I'm using the router object, which I have imported inside my constructor. And in this router, I have a method called navigate, which gives us the feature to navigate to some other page or location. Now I'm navigating to, it takes an array and then it takes some query parameter as well. You can pass your param and now then you can pass your query params as well. Okay. This is the route param. So how I'm navigating using this /second. Okay. It will take me to the second page. Okay. The second component. And with that, I can pass some route param like this. And if I want to pass some query param, I'll be passing one object inside it. And there I'll be using this query param object. And inside this, I'll define all my query param. Okay, so now I'll show you how it looks like on the UI. Okay, so I'm on the first component. Now on the click of this, I want to route to the second component. When you click on this, you will see the route is changed 1, 2, 3, 4, and my query params are also added to my route. And the last one is route guards. So what are route guards? Route guard help us prevent some of the route where I can add some restriction to the particular route. For example, if I want to restrict the admin page, if someone is accessing /admin, I want to restrict only to the admin users only. So other than that, no one can access it. So how can I achieve that? How can I disable those routes? I have two ways, can activate, can deactivate. Either I can activate it for particular user or I can deactivate it for particular user. So how we achieve that? So inside my code, I will be creating my guard. So for example, I've created this AuthGuard service. Okay. We'll be importing the can activate from the Angular router. Okay. And now I'll implement this can activate interface, and I need to override this can activate method. Inside this can activate method, I'll be writing my logic. So this method will be returning true or false. Either I can activate this route or not for this particular user. So inside this, what I'm just calling my user service. If it is checking if this user is logged in, then only access this route. Otherwise return false for it. And then I'm using this can activate inside my route. Okay, so inside my second, if I'm logged in, and then only it will allow me to use this particular route. That is how we secure our routes. So that was all about this video. I hope you understood now the routing and the modules from older Angular version to new version. So now see you in the next video. If you have any query, any question, you can comment down and you can ask me. Thank you.